Yes, I'm Carol Carruthers, past president, and it's my great pleasure today to introduce our speaker. Um, I, Dr. Victoria, I'm sorry, Dr. Victoria Steele, who is the curator emerita of the UCLA's Public Arts Collection at this point. I first met Victoria a long time ago. I met her through her father in a dog training class.
It's true.
Remember if it was the killer German Shepherd or the very sleepy Irish setter, but he said you should meet my daughter. I did. I found her at the Biomed Library a long time ago, and I've been so excited to follow her career through all of the libraries at UCLA, the special collections from the Biomed to the Elmer Belt, my favorite, and the Young Church Library Special Collections, the Clark Library. She's been at the USC Libraries, the New York City Public Library, and finally came back to UCLA, which we're happy to have her back here again. And she received both her bachelor's and master's from UCLA in library science. And then she went to USC and she got another master's and her doctorate at USC. She has received many outstanding awards for her service with the libraries. And it's been very exciting to follow that. We'll have a chance for question and answers afterwards. But I had a couple of questions to start with, Vicki. I had two questions. First of all, what makes a collection special? And secondly, what's special about UCLA's collections?
Okay, so in librarianship, when we talk about a special collections, what we're referring to is parts of the library that look after rare books, manuscripts, historic photographs, prints, drawings, and maps. So that it has a special connotation in the library world. What makes UCLA special? That's your question? Oh my gosh, where do we, I don't even know where to start with that one, except that, you know, one of the great things about UCLA for me has always been how outstanding it is on every level and the opportunity to study anything you want, and no matter how obscure. And also that we just have this incredibly beautiful, interesting campus. And what I'm going to focus on today is some of these kind of hidden things. And I'll tell you my whole story of getting involved in sort of unknown campus art. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
Well, that was my second.
Oh.
About after a lifetime romance with words and literature, how did you indeed pivot to pictures and art?
You know, I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the beginning of my remarks, but you know, I came to UCLA when I was 18 as a freshman, and I was always interested in, you know, I studied art history. I was always interested in art. And I always paid attention to it. So at a certain point when I transitioned to emeritus status, I thought I should do something about this, these sort of orphan things all over the campus. And so I returned on callback to be the curator of the campus public art collection. And so I'm going to give you a little whirlwind tour of that today.
Great. Take it away.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I should say we're going to cover some ground, so I'm going to be moving along. Okay, here we go. Sharing my screen. Here it is, I think. Okay, I'm gonna just wait for the current slide. Okay, are we good? Can everybody see this? All right. Okay, so I am going to share with you some little known campus art and design gems. I'm going to focus on some of my favorite rooms, less well-known campus buildings, and art. We're not going to talk about the sculpture garden because you all know that, nor the Clark Library, which is off campus. But we're going to travel around just the campus from north to south. what we decided to do just logistically was save the questions for the end. You can also put them in the chat as we go along, as they occur to you. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end. I'm going to use these arrows so we stay on point. I'm trying to do my slides in about 15 minutes. So we're going to move through. Okay. Along the way, as I show you things, make note of your favorites and we'll share them at the end. Anything that's most surprising to you, most fun, prettiest building, favorite room, favorite painting or drawing, favorite sculpture. I'll be very interested in what takes your fancy. So as I was just saying earlier, I came to campus, I studied art history. And after I graduated, my first job was running the Belt Library of Vinciana, which is the Leonardo da Vinci, which was a great collection and a beautiful suite of rooms. The rooms are now gone, the collection's fine. We can talk about that more if you like, but just for old time's sake, and because I love this place so much, I'm showing you a couple of pictures of it. I do actually remember showing this room, giving tours to many campus groups over the years, including Las Doñas. So that's kind of fun for me to be back with you today. There's another quick picture of the Belt Library. Anyway, so how do I know about all this? Well, as I was in my first job and running this for a book library, my interest in art became sort of entwined with rare books and manuscripts. And I pursued that for many years, but I still had this art history itch. As Carol said, I completed a doctorate in art history, but I always paid attention all the years I've been on the campus to campus art. So in 2016, I transitioned to emerita status, and I became concerned that there was no inventory or oversight of much of our art. So I proposed a temporary callback position to create a complete database of all the work. And I completed this between 2018 and 19. This meant cataloging nearly 500 works of art, taking pictures of them, and so worth doing. Yeah. So I had many challenges along the way. Oops, gosh. Sorry. Yeah, so there were a lot of neglected things, especially outdoor items, work we should not have accepted in the first place. Lots of problems with artwork not being identified and not having labels. So I had to do a lot of research to figure out what they were. We also had work that we couldn't find anymore, and remodels that ended up orphaning artwork. And we have lots of ongoing art needs on the campus. Lots of units have problems, art problems, how to frame things, how to display them, repairs, plaques, conservation, all kinds of things. They also have a real need for help with vetting art. Sometimes things come to us through central development, and they don't know. It's like, should we take this? Should we not take this? Is there a place for it? Most of the time, the answer is no. But a lot of people approach us because they'd love to have, to be able to say that their work is on display at UCLA. But so vetting is an important campus need. There's also a lot of confusion about how to handle paperwork and deeds and gift paperwork, basically. Some units reach out to me because they get requests from high-level people about needing art. We want art, we want color on the walls. What do we do? They need a curator, in short. Oops, gosh. And the artwork on campus is not static. I am sorry that this is having a mind of its own. Anyway, it's all constantly changing. So I now look after all this as a volunteer. So what's public art? What do I mean by that? Really, it's easier to explain what it isn't. It doesn't include decor. There's a difference. It doesn't include reproductions, posters, loaned work, portraits of founders, unless by noted artists. We have lots of portraits of founders around the campus. It doesn't include rotating student artwork or campus photographs of campus history. Those are everywhere too. I should also say that the things that I look after are not under the curatorial purview of the Fowler Museum or the Hammer Museum, which have their own very competent curators and their own collections. Nor do I look after anything that's in the Medical Center Art Collection, which has quite a large collection of work in many buildings on campus and off. They have a manager who looks after that. We work closely together, but that's the situation. All right, so we're going to take a kind of virtual walk around the campus, and we're going to start down here in Jules Stein on that campus. We're going to work our way all the way up here to the Factor building. We're going to go to the garden, Lucretz Botany. We're going to do mid-campus, Court of Sciences. We're going to wend our way up to North Campus, all the way eventually up to the Broad building, back to the Anderson School, and we're going to end up at the Luskin Conference Center. So we're going to cover the whole place pretty much. All right, here we go. So we're going to start down here on the iCampus and look at some period buildings. There are 3 buildings on the Stein campus: the Jules Stein building, which is the original building that was opened in 1966. The Doris Stein building, which was created in 1984 by the widow of Jules Stein, then the widow Doris Stein. We sometimes call this DCERC, Doris Stein Eye Research Center. This is the newest building. It's the Wasserman building, and that was opened in 2014. So I want to point out before we start going into the buildings, this sort of little, this building that's adjacent to Jules Stein. Oh, I'm going to turn on my pointer. That'll be better. This building has the prettiest room on campus and the least seen. So we're going to go in there, but first we're going to head over to the Wasserman building. I said we don't include donor portraits, but this is the most fun donor portrait on campus. It is a wall sculpture, and rather than the usual donor portrait that is of people's faces, the portrait is symbolic. And why is it symbolic? Oh, see, you can see here how it is kind of a wood relief sculpture. It represents the donors, Lou Wasserman and Edie Wasserman, and their very distinctive eyewear. Lou Wasserman was famous for these big, square black frames, and Edie always had these sort of cat eye glasses. So isn't that fun? A very imaginative approach to a donor portrait. Okay, now we are in the Adam Room, which is the prettiest room on campus and the least seen. It was created by Robert Adam, one of the most prominent English country house architects and interior designers in Georgian England. The room dates from the late 1780s, and Robert Adam was known for his very light, airy, elegant rooms. The room was created for the Bunnell family for their country manor, which was known as Upton House, and it was in the rural area of Essex. Well, by the 1960s, Essex had been encroached on by East London, and the manor had disintegrated. So it ended up going to an antiques fair where it was purchased by Jules Stein. And he had it reinstalled in their New York City apartment. And we're going to take a little tour around the room, but while we're here, notice this beautiful bespoke carpet rug, a gorgeous chandelier, all these lovely, the lovely furniture, the columns, the molding, and so forth. And we're going to look to the left for a second. So when the room was reinstalled in the Steins New York apartment, there were windows on two sides of the room, which of course this room does not have. So instead, they found these beautiful French block printed pieces of wallpaper dating to around 1800, and they're really charming. Show you some details. These pastoral scenes. So how did the room end up at UCLA? So it was in the apartment, and after the Steins died, the room went to auction again, and it turned out that Gerald Oppenheimer, who was Doris Stein's son by her first marriage, decided to buy the room and have it reinstalled at UCLA. So that's what happened. And there are these, as I say, these beautiful original details. The one piece that was missing in all of this was the ceiling. And Robert Adam was especially well known for these beautiful stucco plaster, these delicate ceilings. So that was recreated. But it's a lovely room. It's used for special events now. You'll be interested to know. Not very many people have seen it. All right, I think I have one more slide of this. Yeah, this lovely original fireplace, these torchère stands, the columns of Portrait of Doris. All right, so now we are going to head into the building proper and look at another very fancy period room. We have a total of 4 in Jules Stein. Now we're going to go see what is known as the seminar room. The seminar room is really an elegant room. And where does this room come from? It comes from Marion Davies' beach estate. And I'm going to show you a slide of that. But before we go there, I want to just point out that there are these 2 really fantastic Toulouse-Lautrec lithographs in the room. We'll come back to that. But here's what Marion Davies' beach house looked like. It was a 100-room mansion, right, at the bottom pretty much of the California incline. It also had this guest house. The guest house survives. The beach house was demolished in 1956. Interestingly, it was designed by Julian Morgan, who was also the architect of Hearst Castle. Very important architect, and very unusually a very important woman architect. The room that we have was on the entrance side, like on the PCH side, so that's where that came from. Oh, and today, as you may know, this whole area is the site of the Annenberg Community Beach House. You can still tour the guest house, which is fun to do. But that's a great project. Thank you, Alice Annenberg, for doing that. So coming back to these prints, they're early, 1893, 1895. I love this print. This is the sitter was somebody named Misia Serre. Don't you love her polka dot coat and her firm fur collar? And the muff and the hat and the whole thing, very charming. This print is the most famous of all of the Toulouse-Lautrec prints, and I'll tell you why a little bit about that. It's very late, but it's of a can-can dancer named Jane Averill. But as you'll notice, the point of view is of someone in the orchestra who's playing a double bass. And then the artist kind of made this kind of encirclement of the scene. But it has been pointed out, she's a can-can dancer. It's the demi-monde. And anyway, it has been pointed out that the double bass is rather phallic looking. All right, now we're going to move into another room that connects to this room, and this is the Doris Stein reading room. This room comes from a 19th century townhouse that was in London, another purchase of Jules Stein. It also has many beautiful details, a bespoke rug, another one, this great antique table with a red leather top and tooling. Doris Stein was a big collector of American antiques, British and American antiques. So that is a fun room. It is used for meetings. Anyway, now we're going to go out this door and into the patient area and see something completely different. A period room dating from the 60s. And this is the detail of the room. One side of the room is covered with this ceramic tile mural of the small world. It's in a pediatrics area. And the small world, as you may have already figured out, is based on the small world attraction at Disneyland. It was made by the same woman who created that attraction at Disneyland. And as you can see, it's got the children of the world, you know, a little French girl, ballet dancer, Dutch girl, and so on. It's very interesting in the contrast in textures that it has. You'll notice there are these sort of rough areas, and then these other highly glazed areas that are almost, they're so shiny that they almost are like wet paint. So how did we get this room? Well, this was actually a gift from Walt Disney, who commissioned Mary Blair, the artist, to create this room for this pediatrics area. And actually there's a signature to Doris and Jules Stein with love from Walt Disney. And here's Mary Blair's signature down here. So this is a real treasure. All the Disney aficionados, who are legion, are fascinated with this, and also the many fans of Mary Blair. This is a photograph of Mary Blair, who, as you can see, was beautiful. She was a very talented artist, the most famous of all the Disney women. And she was very versatile. She did designs for Disney's animated films, including Cinderella, Peter Pan, and Alice in Wonderland. She also created illustrations for children's books, and she was something. So when I started working on the campus art, one thing that I noticed about this wall mural, in addition to not having a label, was that it had become very dirty. It had never been cleaned. So I was able to bring in a team of conservators to clean it and make repairs to it. They had patient chairs up against this wall, so it had gotten nicked. So this team from the Sculpture Conservation Studio came in, cleaned it, did some infilling, and we now have a barrier there, so it can't get nicked anymore. But I do want to point out one feature of this mural that is very special, and it is this clock, the starburst clock that is at the center. That's the focal point of the mural. And it didn't work at this time. It was stuck on 1030. And I took this problem to the building manager and said, you know, we really need to make this clock work. I was like, yeah, it doesn't work for 40 years, big deal. I was like, no, this clock needs to work. Got the clock fixed, yay. It's a whole story, but I'm very proud of this because it is great, don't you think? I mean, classic 60s. All right, we are going to leave this area. So we've been now down here. This is where the Adam room is. We're coming out of Jules Stein. We're gonna go up here. We're gonna go all the way up to the Factor building, the tallest building on campus, 15 stories. And actually, if you go up to the top floor and look this way, there's some pretty great views. It's up on a hill too, so it's really high. Anyway, we're going to look at something surprising there. Then we're going to go over and see some new things over here. And we're going to go to the Botany Building and then to Hershey Hall. Okay, so I found a very surprising thing in the Factor Building on the 4th floor, which is a 30-foot long mural that was created in 1958 by Millard Sheets, and it's on the 4th floor. It's hard to photograph because it's very long. Millard Sheets is maybe a name that's familiar to you. He created a lot of mosaic murals for bank buildings around Southern California, in particular Home Savings and Loan. You may know this one. It was on the bank building at 26th and Wilshire. It's not there anymore, but there's still many around. So it was like, how did we get this? Again, no label. And here it is. You know, it's the 4th floor of the Factor Building is the nursing school. And here are the nursing students sitting up against the wall. It's also in pretty rough shape. And my team who worked on the Small World piece have given me a proposal for this. I haven't succeeded in getting anyone to fund it yet, but I hope to do that, and also put a little barrier here so the students won't lean up against it. But you'll notice this plaque here. This is what the plaque says. What is this? It's like, okay, it's a gift from this dentist and his wife, but no other information. So it now has a proper plaque. I still don't exactly know how we got it. I have a pretty good guess, but anyway, that is a surprising thing to find. All right, now we are going across the street and we are going to look at the new Lacrette's Garden Pavilion. I don't know if any of you have seen this yet. It opened in 2017. So if you missed seeing it before the pandemic hit, you may not have, but it is so great. It was designed by Neil Lehrer, who's an architect and a landscape architect. And it has this sort of nest-like shape here. This is Factor, and this is Lacrette's Botany, where we're going in a minute. But it has these beautiful classrooms. I'm going to show you what they look like. It looks like this. They're all open. They're all modular. They're fantastic in a COVID era. You can open them up for classes or tours, and they're so nice. There are a few more images of it. Here's one, an aerial, isn't it great? And okay, so now we're going to the Botany Building. We're going to the front over here, and we are going to look at this building, which was actually designed by Paul Williams, little known fact, on the campus, who was a trailblazing Black architect. He was born in 1894, lived a long life, died in 1980. He practiced mostly in Southern California and designed homes for lots of big stars like Frank Sinatra and Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, Barbara Stanwyck. But he overcame a lot. Both his parents died when he was a child. He was sent to foster care. He was adopted. His foster mother realized that he was talented and really supported him. He was the only Black student in his elementary school. So what's cool about this building and the fact that we have it is that it was Paul Williams' first project commissioned solely to his firm by a prominent institution. So that's really neat. In 2019, a project was begun to refurbish the building. And the architects, the company is called CO Architects, discovered that there was an unrealized detail in Paul Williams' archive for a plant motif glass mosaic mural. And so they decided to reconstruct it. And you can see a little bit of it outside. The mural is inside, outside. And it's very fun that they decided to do that as kind of an homage to him. And here's the design that they found in the archive. And here is a somewhat blurry, but You can see the design and the palette, which is very pretty. And this is what it looks like on the inside. All right, we're moving along from this building, the Botany building, to Hershey Hall. And I'm going to say a few things while we're seeing it in an aerial view. Maybe some of you lived in Hershey Hall. I would so love to know if that's the case. But Hershey Hall, as you can see, it's the most beautiful early building on campus. I love it so much. It was the first women's dorm on the campus. And it was entered from Hillgard. I'll show you. Notice this courtyard. And there's a beautiful south courtyard that I'll show you. The entrance is here now. The whole place is kind of disguised in a way because there are two towers of the Terasaki building. Here's Young Drive South. And so you really don't see it from the street. And everybody just drives by it on Hillgard and people just don't pay any attention to it particularly. But I love it a lot. And I spent the better part of the first year of the pandemic working on this building and giving a little makeover. So here's the Hillgard side, and the old front entrance was there. The front entrance is now on this other side. And note this plaque here, which was formerly by the front door, but I had it fixed up by the conservation team and were put by the front door. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Myra Hershey, who's so interesting. So here's the story of Myra Hershey. She was part of the Hershey family, kind of distantly related to the chocolate Hershey's, but she grew up in Pennsylvania. This is the only known photograph of her. Born in 1843, her father was very wealthy, and she undoubtedly had a lot of suitors. But when she was in her late teens, early 20s, she decided she wanted to go to college. What was unusual about this was that she actually attended the first women's college. The first was called the Pennsylvania Female College. It was the first college that was non-denominational, accredited, and with degree conferring powers. So Smith, Vassar, all of those other schools came along a little later. And she was in college during the Civil War, which I think is completely amazing. After college, she returned to work in her father's business, and did that until he died, at which point she moved to Los Angeles in 1894, where she continued to be involved in business, and she was a property developer. She owned the Hollywood Hotel at a certain point. And she left in her will $300,000 to create a women's dorm on the campus. Why was that such a priority? Here's the reason. So as you recall, we have the 4 buildings in the quad, the 4 original buildings. The 5th building was Moore Hall, which was for education. The 6th and 7th were Kirchhoff and Myra Hershey Hall. Kirchhoff was meant to be for like the student union. Why was it so important to have this dorm? Well, the reason was that men could live off campus unsupervised, but women couldn't. So it was a priority to have a place for the women students to live. And what's wonderful about it is if you think of those original buildings, they're like Italian Romanesque, the ones on the quad. Kirchhoff is neo-Gothic. Hershey Hall is very light and Renaissance-y, with these beautiful arcades. This is the south courtyard. This is where the dorm rooms were. And this is the inner courtyard. Again, some dorm rooms up here. It's such a pretty space. It was the dining patio, but now it has these lovely fruit trees. It's so pretty. Here's the arcade in that space. Here's the foyer. That's the Hillgard entrance. And it has this beautiful salon, which was the living room for the dorm, basically, where you could receive male visitors, with an original fireplace. Anyway, I gave this room an art makeover, and I'm just going to quickly show you some beautiful watercolors that I had never seen before, going back to the 20s. This is an imaginary view of the quad. The quad was under construction when this was rendered. And so the artist Heckman was imagining what it would look like. Note the mountains in the background with snow on them. You cannot see mountains from there. And there are no eucalyptus trees or Italian cypress, but it's a beautiful, fun thing. Somebody else named Beaumont for the yearbook, the 1929 yearbook, created the 1930. They were in the 1931 student yearbook, but they were created in 1930. Meyer Hershey from Hilgard, Kirchhoff, and you can see I put them around the room, and so on. The clerk, there are a few images of the clerk, very pretty. Okay, all right, we are moving on from Meyer Hershey Hall, or the two towers of Terasaki. We're going to go in here, and believe it or not, our first stop is the California Nanosystems Institute, and a very cool part of a parking structure. I know that sounds crazy, but here we go. Have you ever seen this MC Escher walkway over there at the top of lot 9? It's so cool. There are all kinds of staircases at weird angles and corridors. And if you've forgotten what MC Escher looks like, like these, it's very deliberate. It's a lot of fun. So we are going from here. You can see from the aerial some of these zigzaggy things. We are going to go into Bolter Hall from here. Okay. And when you walk in this entrance, you see some floor tiles here with a coded message. This is Len Kleinrock, who is the father of the internet, which is just upstairs, and we're going to go see it. The architect put this sort of Easter egg in the floors, and it's in binary code. And when you work it out, as some of the computer science students have done and figured it out, the message is lo and behold. And why is that? I'm going to tell you. You go upstairs, and here's room 3420. This is a little period room too. It was where the first internet message was sent, and in 1969. And along the way, things had changed in the building, but it's so important that people recreated the room where this message was sent. And here's what happened. This is the piece of equipment that was used to send the message from UCLA to Stanford. It happened at UCLA, which is huge. And here's what happened. And I'm thanks to Len Kleinrock for the use of the slide. So what happened was that piece of equipment sent a message from UCLA to Stanford, but they couldn't tell if it was coming across. The only way they could tell was by being on the phone with each other. And someone from UCLA said, "We sent you an L. Did you get the L?" "Yep." "We sent you an O. Did you get the O?" "Yep." "We sent you a D. Did you get the D?" Crash. The system crashed. So the actual first internet message was low, as in lo and behold. It wasn't intentional. They were trying to do login. They were typing login, and it crashed on the G. So it's a great story. In Bolter Hall and in math sciences, they love code. And here's another piece with some code, with this incredibly fun artwork. No label. I had to find somebody who could explain to me what it was. Anyway, it's a long story. But this, can anybody identify what this code is? Probably in the old days, people would have recognized it as Morse code. It's Morse code, and it says, "Let there be light." Fiat Lux. It's the motto of the university. This is a very cool piece. It's like a big pixelated eye. And, you know, it was the 70s. People didn't see pixels. They didn't have computer screens like we do now. So it was kind of very ahead of its time. All right. We are crossing the quad and we are going into a little known but very fun gallery, the Meteorite Gallery. And it's actually pretty cool. This meteorite belonged to William Andrews Clark, believe it or not. It's called the Clark meteorite. And one of the things, the services that the geology department provides, and there's a lot of interest in meteorites over there. People, you can take your, what you think is a meteorite over to have them tell you if it is or not, if it's a meteorite or a meteor wrong. It's a little geology humor there. Okay. All right. So now we are headed from the geology building over geology building. We are going over here. This is Moore Hall. Here's another surprising find. So this is today the Institute for Pure and Applied Mathematics. It's called the IPAM Center. But what's interesting about it is that it was actually designed by Frank Gehry in 1977, before he was a thing. It used to be the Student Placement Center. And you may all remember that Gehry started to become well known for one project in particular in 1978, which was his own house where he used a lot of sort of industrial materials, unconventional things like chain link and corrugated steel. And now, of course, he's considered the most important architect of our age. And we have an early building by him. Check it out. Okay, now we are going from that space. We're going to go back down to math sciences and head over towards the student store. We're going to take a quick look at the mosaic mural on three sides of the north side of the math sciences building. It's very fun. It's very mid-century modern, has lots of cool, fun details. And this is the west facing side. When I was working on my project, this portion looked like this. It's covered in vines, got that cleaned up. Another victory for campus art. Now we're going to Ackerman Union and we're going to look at this mural on the Black Experience, which was created by a group of Black artists in 1970. And over the years, when there was a remodel, actually in 1992, a false wall was put in front of this piece, which actually did protect it, but it wasn't harmed. It was there all the time. And that was removed, and this very cool 1970s mural was brought back to life. And yeah, fun. You know, it's on the level where, I think I'm having it. Okay, let's get this. It's where a lot of the food franchises are now. So actually Panda Express is off to the right. Okay, now we are going from Ackerman Union. We're going to walk up Bruin Walk. We're going to pass through the quad and we're going to go to the back of Haynes Hall and have a look at a really fun piece there. And then we're going to go into Perloff Hall and look at something else there. So just keeping you apprised of where we are. So this is a very fun piece in the Chicano Studies Research Center. It's a neon wall piece. It's pretty big, actually. You can kind of tell from the outlet down there. And I have a slide of what it looks like when the room is dark. And you can really see the dog. It's a hoot. I think it's very fun. Anyway, in Perloff Hall, there is this fantastic panel by Louis Sullivan that dates from 1898 to 99. making it, it ties for the oldest piece, along with the Rodin Walking Man and the Sculpture Garden. It comes from a building that was in Chicago, the Gage Building, and which was, destroyed. There are panels around in various museums. We're really lucky to have it. It's this beautiful sort of Art Deco piece. It used to be outside in the Sculpture Garden, and technically it is part of the Sculpture Garden Committee, but it was placed inside to protect it. And a lot of people are unaware of this piece, but it's very beautiful. Check it out. Okay, so we are going now to bunch really quickly to look at another surprising piece, and then we're going to go to the library and then Broad. Okay, so on the 6th floor of Bunch Hall is this mural from 1975 that was created by somebody named Terry Schoonhoven, who is part of a group of muralists, mural painters, known as the Fine Art Squad. Because our piece was an inside piece, it has survived, unlike many of the outdoor pieces. The imagery is supposed to suggest, this is supposed to be YRL, the research library, after the apocalypse. Kind of hurts my heart, actually, to even imagine that, but anyway, and maybe this is supposed to be the top of Bunch Hall, the roof, I don't know, but anyway, it's sort of an enigmatic piece, but also kind of an, interesting and important piece. All right, so now we're going to special collections, my heart's home in many ways. This is the booth room in special collections, probably the prettiest room in the libraries. And we're specifically going to look at this painting, which is by Pablo Picasso, and it's called Homage à Gertrude, in reference to Gertrude Stein. He painted it for her in 1909. And if you remember your art history, Picasso created this his most important early pieces, the Demoiselles d'Avignon, which is a couple of years before this. So that, to place that chronologically, Gertrude, of course, Stein was a great friend of Picasso's. He painted her famously, but she was also a great collector. And in her apartment in Paris, she had artwork by very many famous people. She had this nailed to the ceiling above her bed. And that seems like it was intentional, because you can see that Picasso knew that it was going to be seen from down below looking up. This is a reproduction, and I'm showing it to you because it's a little easier to see where the nail holes show up and see how these angel figures are above. This reproduction was created in 2011 prior to a traveling exhibition of work having to do with Gertrude Stein. Our piece was loaned to this exhibition, which started in San Francisco, went to Paris to the Grand Palais, and then was in the Met. So it is a very important piece. All right, now we are going up to the Broad Building. This is an amazing drawing. It was created by somebody named Maleko Mokosi when he was a graduate student in the MFA program in 2011. It's on the 8th floor. If you take the elevator up to the 8th floor of the Broad Building, when the elevator doors open, it's on the wall right there. And it has a little label, but it doesn't have any context. What was the story? What is this thing? So it turns out, after doing some research, that an assistant dean commissioned this graduate student to create this piece. Maleko grew up in Botswana and saw women who look like this and drew it directly on the wall. It's graphite on the wall. And the draftsmanship is incredible. I'll show you the detail. Look at that, it's incredible. So Maleko graduated from UCLA, he became a huge art star very quickly. The Fowler had a show of his shortly after graduation. The Hammer has done an installation of mural of his, and he's had international success. He's very celebrated, and is actually now a full professor of art at Yale, like a little over 10 years later. So what's cool about this piece is we have maybe his earliest work, this monumental drawing at UCLA before he got famous. Okay, we are now moving on. We are going to Carol's stomping grounds. We are going over to the Anderson School where we're going to do, oh, down here. And the Anderson School has a lot of artwork. It has 7 buildings and it has a lot of art. So I'm just going to show you a few things starting down here in this round building, which has this very pretty rotunda. And this piece is in the bottom of the rotunda. It's by a sculptor named Guy Dill. And here's a piece that's outside that building. It's a sculpture by Fletcher Benton. More pieces. This is by Laddie John Dill, and who is the brother of Guy Dill, actually. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a flyby, but we're trying to move here. Okay, so now we're going to walk down to the Luskin Center, which also has a big art collection. And 98, I hope you've all been there. Luskin opened in 2016. The idea behind the art collection is that everybody has to have a connection to UCLA. And it was the brainchild of Pete Angelis. And I am going to stop my share right now, and we're going to look at a quick video about the Luskin collection. Okay, I think I need to escape. Oops, stop share. Wait, okay. Okay. Can you all see this? Oh.
It's not the value of the art in this place, it's the value of the story and the fact that all this art throughout the entire first floor level of this property is done by artists who either have taught at UCLA or got their MFA at UCLA. But it's wonderful to see the profound impact this campus has made on the world of art.
I've always said that one of the great things about UCLA is this aspiration it has always had to be first class in every way and also very much on the art level.
Conference centers are about creativity. You bring people together for magic where, 1 + 1 is 6, where you have people interact with one another, and art is inspirational and it's creative, and I think it helps set sort of the creative juices going and people to be able to walk around and see great art. So I think it's a perfect complement to a conference center.
LA is so pretty at night, actually. It's part of the school that's all about space and light and connects very well with the others in this hallway, I think, too.
Right.
So over many years, I took thousands of images and then put them together as an homage to Rothko, which is what the project is called, Homage to Rothko. It's all about light and shadow and color, but more than that, it's about a feeling. Those are all art history slides that the professors use to teach their classes of art history. So it's a melange of thousands and thousands of slides covering all types of genres of art.
In my mind's eye, I always pictured having a daguerreotype or an ambrotype of Royce Hall to enlarge and place on glass or acrylic behind the front desk. We looked high and low. We could not find an image that was clear enough, crisp enough that we could blow up to this scale. And we really had to do it from scratch.
So the Conference Center art is a wonderful addition to the art throughout campus, and it helps demonstrate the quality of the talent that resides on this campus.
The Luskin Conference Center is part of the art path at UCLA now, along with the Sculpture Garden, the Fowler Museum, and the Hammer Museum.
You know, I think all the works of art that we've been fortunate enough to gather for this conference facility wanted to be here. It's been
agree.
so serendipitous.
Yeah,
And each seems to
absolutely.
be in the place it wanted to be.
I agree. There's something very magical about this, and people might think that sounds crazy, but I've seen it over and over again in my life. Okay, I think we are, thank you, everybody. I know you're looking forward to your program at the Faculty Club coming up. The reopening is soon, and I think we can probably take questions now. How about that? Should we do that?
Victoria, that was absolutely amazing. You have given us so much more to see, to quote Stephen Sondheim, but we will see the campus with new eyes at this point, and you've put together an amazing piece of artwork yourself. So thank you.
Well, you know, I know I went really fast, but I was watching my clock, and last night when I was timing this, it was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how many slides I threw out, but there's so many fun stories all along the way, but just things to look at when we all get to come back to campus.
Great, thank you. Are there questions?
Or share favorites.
Yes.
If you have some, you can put in the chat or raise your hands.
Ocean House.
Carol, what's your favorite thing that you saw? Or
Oh my goodness.
that's a hard question.
Because I walk around the campus so much. But I hadn't seen the Crest Botanical Garden.
Oh, isn't that so pretty? It's so fun.
Yes, and certainly Myra Hershey Hall. We had planned to start this with you.
Yes.
And then
share that with you.
sure of that. And the Luskin paintings are gorgeous, but also the Picasso. There were just so many wonderful things. And Jules Stein, was that Zuber wallpaper there?
Was what?
In Jules Stein, the panels of wallpaper were Zuber wallpaper.
Yes. In the Atom Room. Have you ever been in the Atom Room, Carol?
We do something there sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the prettiest room on campus and the least seen, I think.
Wonderful, but some of the stuff at Stein is beautiful too. I mean, I've spent a lot of time there, so it's
Yes, we all, if you have any eye issue, that's the place you want to go. So yeah, and isn't that the wall sculpture, the wooden thing of the Wasserman's glasses?
wonderful.
So clever.
Yes. Yes. Are there anybody questions, favorites, where you've been that you remember, Marilyn?
At the very beginning, Victoria asked us what would be the most surprising or fun or prettiest.
Mhm.
And for me, the most surprising was at the Luskin Center, Dr. Richard Ehrlich, who we have known for over 45 years. I couldn't believe what he has done. And he still practices urology and practices everything. And the mosaic, I think you said something about, so I think I'm going to go on to the Luskin Center and see if they have that video you made.
You know, I didn't make it, and I was a little embarrassed even to show it, but because I'm in it. But I did it because it was a very quick way of getting through a lot of things there. But yeah, it's a wonderful collection. Has everybody eaten at Platia? It's a fantastic restaurant. And with a wonderful patio. It's been a favorite spot during COVID, this beautiful, safe patio.
We had a board meeting there once.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, Rick Ehrlich is very serious about his photography.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, our speaker for morning, do you perchance know, do you know Eleanor Schrader? Victoria? No,
No.
she taught art history and architectural history at UCLA on their, I don't know.
Make a note of that.
Was she on campus or was she only, night classes and stuff? Anyway, she's going to be doing our morning. We'll make sure that you get an invitation.
Thank you.
And her discussion's going to be all of the architecture by Julia Morgan.
Oh, I wonder if she knows we have a Julia Morgan room.
I have a feeling she does, but I'll sure check with her. May I give her your email address?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I meant to make a slide of my email. I'm easy to find though.
Great.
On the UCLA directory, but it's just vsteele@ucla.edu.
Okay. Well, we're hoping that we can have it on campus, the morning event, but if not, we'll do it on Zoom. But I'll make sure that you get her email address and you can zippo back and forth. I know you'll like it.
Fun, yeah, that is neat.
This was amazing. We're just, for the architecture buffs of the world, this is Wendy.
Well, I threw a lot at you. As I say, it's the things I didn't include. That was the hard part. But
I feel so ignorant that we've all been on campus. When I was a little girl, we lived across the street from the main entrance, and I used to play over at where the where the libraries are now. And it's just amazing to me. Of course, I'm so old, but in those days, there were just a few buildings. It was down on the main campus, the triangle.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
wonderful.
And over the years, there's a lot of work that has been installed and, sometimes lost and damaged and all kinds of things. It keeps looking after it keeps me out of trouble. That's for sure.
Sure, but now we have a list. We'll have to take walks and things.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna make a list. I think that it's, are there any other questions from anybody? We're just on, I think. And
I was speed talking the whole time, but actually we're just a touch over the hour. So I think we did it pretty efficiently. Anyway, send me an email if you think of something. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
thank you so much. And I think Lostonia
Thank you.
to have this first kind of exhibit of all your work. And as a volunteer, it's just amazing. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for UCLA.
Thank you, Carol. My gosh, you have been a stalwart supporter. And it's been fun to know you all these years since I was like a baby. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Carol, bye.